All morning long, we are talking with inductees this year into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame, and that includes drummer Steve Gadd and bassist Tony Levin, both Eastman grads who have played with some of the biggest names in music. Before that, they played together at the Eastman School of Music. They talked about those days with Doug Emblidge.
What was it about, I mean, a lot of towns have great music scenes, but what was it about the music scene here when you guys were in the same class at Eastman? I mean, I know Friends in Love, and there's so many things you can point to, but you grew up here. What was special about this place that all these years later we're inducting people like Steve Gadd and Tony Levin into the Hall of Fame?
I mean, what was special when he and I were, well, sure. I mean, you know, we were in school together. We were in wind ensemble. We were in jazz band. We played in orchestra together, and then we were in a lot of classes together, and then we went and worked 6 nights a week at the other side of the tracks. So, I mean, that was what a great way to go through school. Yeah. That was fantastic. But before that, Rochester, when I grew up here, there was a lot going on. You know, there were a lot of different clubs, yeah, I heard a lot of different kinds of music. I was in drum corps. Yeah, it was great. There was a lot of support for the arts here.
What do you remember about the music scene when?
Well, I came here to go to Eastman, and I expected it to be a serious classical experience, and it was, and really great. But then, luckily, being in the class with Steve Gadd, I got to play jazz. Actually, I wasn't a jazz player at all when I arrived, and I've been thinking lately about this since I heard about the award, about what it is, exactly what you asked, what it is that's so special about this community. Of course, it's the city and the community that supports the arts and jazz, and it's partly because of the Eastman Theater and the complex and what it's like. But a lot of it is to me what I call the cats, the players who are from here. It's an extraordinary bunch, and it was in the 60s when we were here, and so what an education I got at night. In the daytime, playing at Eastman, that was great, a great education, but I could not at any other school on the planet that I know of have then played at night with Gadd Mangione and Chuck Mangione and Sal Nistico and Joe Romano and Vinnie Ruggiero, Joe LaBarbera, Steve Gadd, Jerry Nywood, the cats. So I'm the thing about this week to me and this induction is really I'm honored to have my name even mentioned among the cats, the really good players from here.
Well, you're humble. All right, I'm going to have each of you talk about each other. What makes my cousin, I think, once when he was a drummer and of course looked up to Steve Gadd and just the superlatives flowed. Why is Steve Gadd so good?
Well, he's right next to me, so I can't tell you the
right, yeah, you can't say anything bad.
He really isn't that good.
Well, when we were in school together, at a young age, Steve was already very experienced at jazz and at big bands and at different things, and he just was expert at all the aspects of it, but I didn't really realize until I moved to New York and started doing sessions, jazz sessions and other rock sessions, how exceptional Steve's playing was on a few fronts. First of all, his feel, I've worked with a lot of guys who can keep the time, and Steve keeps the time with the very best of them, but very few of them actually have a feel that's identifiable to make the piece more special and make I could go on all day about rhythm sections and what makes them what they are. So he has that thing that's like a thing beyond. And the other thing that when we moved to New York pretty much together, I was there first, but then Steve came down and was introduced to the studio scene and other situations that he hadn't played in before and kinds of playing that he hadn't done and hadn't heard. And he didn't, this is striking, he didn't act like, well, I'm Steve Gadd and I do this, or even just I'm a guy from Rochester and I do this. He really studied the other styles. He really devoted himself to becoming an even better drummer. And as far as I know, he's, until today anyway, he's still doing that. Maybe today he won't be doing it, but so he's, that's a rare thing, an exceptional musician who's still trying to get better and improve himself.
Tony Levin, Steve Gadd, what makes him an extraordinary bass player?
Well, his technical ability. He's a great listener. He's open to everything. I mean, as long as it's good music, then Tony, you know, would be a part of it. You know what I mean? He doesn't. There are no boundaries. He's a great guy. We grew up together. He was, you know, we hung out every day for years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to me, it's not only is he a great musician, but he's a great man and inspirational all the way around.
Well, coming up after 8, Gadd and Levin talk about how they approach performing today.
We're spending this morning with the inductees into the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. A little bit later, Ashley will visit with Ferdinand J. Smith in his studio.
Doug got to visit with drumming legend Steve Gadd and bass great Tony Levin. More now of that interview about how they approach the performances they do today.
Is it for either of you to all right, so you've got a gig with whoever and you've got a gig with whoever. Does it come easy ever, or is it always a chore or a labor of love for sure, but to do it well still? With all your experience and all your expertise and all your talent, it still work?
Yeah, you have to give it 150%. You have to, you know, you just gotta.
But
you're totally. Dead. Yeah, but that's that doesn't make any difference. You know what I mean? I mean, I still have to, you know, be focused and put everything, no matter what kind of music it is. If I'm on that gig, I got to do the best I can, and luckily, you know, I'm playing with a lot of good musicians who are good listeners, and it's enjoyable, you know. It's enjoyable.
What about you? Same.
On that subject, it rubs off on you when you play with really good musicians. Even you absorb something, even if they're playing a different instrument. Mm-hmm. So there's always that trading back and forth of trying to up your game. And I think I've worked with players who are very happy with what they do, and this is what I do, and don't ask me anything else, and very good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think my teacher in not being that way was the guy next to me, because I saw you through school and then in the years after that. Coming to New York was a big jump for both of us, but especially for you. And I adopted this attitude that I still have, I hope, of trying to up my game and be better at what I do.
All right, stupid.
And by the way, it's never a chore. It's work, but not the way work means for other non-musicians. Work for a musician means likely you're going to get paid, but really it's play. You're playing, and you would play for nothing. I'm sure all of us would play for nothing. And well, we're going to be paid. That's work.
What's a thrill for you now? I mean,
I'm really lucky. I tour all the time. I tour more than I think I ever have. And playing a concert for people, playing concerts around the world of music that you think a lot of, that you really love, and maybe it's your own music or it's your own playing and your own heart goes into it. Something magical happens at those concerts. I never get over it. As many concerts, I've done since the earth was cooling, I've been doing concerts since before I came to Rochester. I never get tired of it. Especially it's obvious if the people don't speak English, if you don't speak the same language or anything. There's this magic thing that happens that you're sharing, and the thing that makes some people will remember that concert for years. So something happened that night, and it's the same for us on stage. Something for all the concerts, and they're all good, and some of them are very good, but some of them just some magical thing happens. So that's what I do for a living. Lucky guy.
Stupid question. I've been on YouTube a lot over the last 10 years.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, it's just it's a black hole. Knee pads?
Yeah, I wore knee pads. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Glad to get rid of them. I wore a wig for a while.
Did you?
Yeah, when Peter Gabriel was starting a tour, I think it was the So Tour, at the War Memorial, which was called that then.
Yeah, he used to start here, didn't he?
Sometimes. And in rehearsals, I was walking down Main Street and passed a store called Wigtown. And I stopped in there and got a very, I think, $10 wig and walked into the rehearsal. And no one knew who I was. It was pretty radical. And so Peter liked that, and when he figured out who I was, he said, wear that during the show. That's going to be good.
What, Steve, at this point, gives you a thrill?
Well, I still, like Tony said, I mean, when you can, play some music that you can communicate with an audience where everyone is feeling the same thing at the same time, that's a good feeling. And when you can reach those kind of plateaus musically, where you're in the zone and you're communicating with people and everyone's feeling the same thing, it's like when you can get in that zone, you don't need as much sleep. Everything just sort of flows. So it's thrilling when you can get to that area and just let things flow naturally.
We'll have Doug's full interview on foxrochester.com later this morning.